everybody? It's your boy Randy Stress. I'd like to welcome you to the Stress Free Zone. As you know, this is a show that helps you get to know people on a more personal level. We have celebrities, we have athletes, we have CEOs, directors. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Bobby Yan. He's a director, he's a writer, creator. I'm gonna call him a little bit more than that because he's a 7-time Emmy Award winner. Yeah, I knew about the seventh one. Everybody, welcome up to the show. Welcome to the show, Bobby.
Hey, thank you, Randy. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. And thank you, Sheila, as well, behind the scenes. Appreciate it.
So I'm going to keep this off normal. Normally I jump around, but today I want to know what is it that you want people to know about you?
About me, that I am a creative that is seeking to bring light to the world through original work, as well as a really strong vision and a good message.
I know you went to Tulane University down in New Orleans. How did you enjoy the transition from New York to New Orleans?
Well, so I got my start in New Orleans. I always say that a lot of people first met me in the industry through being in New Orleans. And it's interesting because a lot of people, when I would come back to New York during like summer vacations, and they would actually think I was from New Orleans only because I always had my little school ID and everything else. And I started, ironically, besides Tulane, shout out to Tulane University. It's a wonderful school, and I'm sending much blessings to them through this pandemic so that the students are still learning the best they can. So I give strength to all of them. Shout out to the president, Mike Fitz. He's a great guy. And Brian Edwards, the dean. So anyway, New Orleans is a special place to me, the culture, the people, the place. And I always say this, when I first got to New Orleans, you always say there's a path for you. And the light to my path to New Orleans was really a God-given path. It's not something I expected. I never in my million years would I have known that I would move to New Orleans at age 17 and live there for more or less 7 years. I didn't expect that. And especially since I was just a kid growing up in New York City, growing up in Hollis, Queens, I didn't know anything about New Orleans. So it was a very interesting jump to move down there, and definitely a culture shock. So, but anyway, to make a long story short, I started my career as a filmmaker, ironically, through television in New Orleans, through a local TV show from Tulane University that aired on the public access channel called Hip Hop Half Hour. It was a TV show for hip hop music videos, and I modeled it after one of my mentors here in New York City, Ralph McDaniel's Video Music Box, which we all grew up watching and learning about the music and discovering hip hop music was through that show. So what I did and what I used as my template in New Orleans back in the day was to do the same thing for New Orleans. So where we would showcase both local as well as national artists from hip hop industry, even R&B and other places. So in many ways, a lot of the New Orleans artists that you know today, at least the ones from the 90s, they all kind of were seen very early on my show. We're talking about the Master P's, the Cash Moneys, obviously Juveniles and Mystical, all those people, they were all on my show. And it was a very local, community-oriented program. And it not only introduced me to TV production, where we as a student body all taught each other, and my partner Jamal Payne was an amazing producer of his own and writer. We all started from that show, and it taught us TV production, it taught us teamwork, it taught us how to communicate with an audience, a very captive audience worldwide. And a little tidbit of information if you want to know, like Lil Wayne, when I was doing the show, Lil Wayne was 12 years old. And we used to do weekly, this is before the internet, before YouTube, any of this stuff. So there's really no way to document this unless you have a VHS. So we would have a weekly live show similar to this, except it was on TV. We were actually on public access channel 6. So we weren't on a station dial, channel 1000. We was on channel 6 in New Orleans proper. So when you go flip through the channels at 9 p.m. every Wednesday was our show. So
Okay.
what we did, we used to have live shows, and we would have live call-ins with the live hosts, and they would give shout-outs to whatever people wanted us to say. So I had a man of like 8 students manning the phones, and our phones would ring like every second. Our phones would be ringing with people saying Hip Hop Half Hour with shout out, and they would write down the extra shout out. So anyway, small tidbit of information. I'm just giving you extra stuff. Lil Wayne was one of our regular call-ins, and he would always call in to shout out Lil Wayne, Cash Money early on. So it was kind of interesting how we influenced a lot of the early rappers, through the music that we were playing, the music videos, as well as showcasing the artists that we used to have on the show. And we had everybody on the show, because I would come back to New York during summer vacations, and we would interview everybody. So I had, Biggie Smalls, I had Method Man Redman, I had Puff Daddy, all early times when they were just starting out. And we had all of them. So what I would do is I would record them. And I was that kid back in the 90s with the video camera, the little DV camera, running around in the clubs. I was everywhere. I was that guy. I was every single place. Everybody, who's that little dude right there? And that was me, running around interviewing everybody I could. So I got probably, I'd say, 300 hours of footage of just tons of archive footage from all hip hop and R&B artists in the 90s and on. So it was a good time. So that's my connection to New Orleans. Besides that, it's a spiritual connection. It's the people, the culture. There's a soul to New Orleans that's amazing. If you look at the artists today, even music artists, and as well as actors, you're like, oh, this person's from New Orleans. Anthony Mackie, oh, he's from New Orleans. Yaya, oh, he's from New Orleans. Luke James, oh, he's from New Orleans.
Right.
Lucky Day, he's from all these people. PJ Morton. I used to go to PJ Morton's father's church. That used to be my church in New Orleans. So, it's an interesting time. So.
Okay. I'm liking that. I love New Orleans myself. I'm a Creole boy, so anything dealing with New Orleans, I'm happy with. I used to live in New York myself. I lived in Jamaica, Queens. Shout out to Jamaica, Queens. I always got to do my shout outs.
I was from Hollis, Jamaica. Same thing. We were neighbors.
Oh yeah. I definitely know the area. It's great to hear how you were there in the beginning to kind of see hip hop as it is now kind of evolve and change and everything. And you met some great people. I love the fact that Lil Wayne came on there on a regular. That's kind of dope, especially Lil Wayne. So do you think that what you did as far as the show in Tulane with meeting all of these people coming to New York, running around with your camera and everything, do you think that helped you, kind of exposed you to more, and kind of made you realize, I need to be directing, I need to be creating, I need to do more than just a small show. You need to get onto a larger level, if you will.
Yeah, so definitely even me working on this TV station in New Orleans was based on the fact that I always knew I wanted to be a director. I wanted to be a filmmaker, because my love of filmmaking started way before college. It started when I was like 10, 12 years old, watching Star Wars, watching Blade Runner. Those are the things that I really wanted to do. I was watching those things, and I always had like creative ideas of what was in my head, these different worlds in my head. So I think when I went to school, specifically at Tulane at that time, we didn't have a film program at Tulane, but we had a TV station, student-run TV station. So I fully devoted myself. I lived in that station. I was there 24 hours at times, editing and working. I just devoted myself to the craft, so I went in doing a hip hop TV show that was already there. I was actually started by 3 people: Elvin Stampley, Aaron Roden, and one more person I can't remember, but another female. The show was already there, so I took it over. So it was just a very natural transition to say, hey, I love filmmaking, but here's a TV show that I can actually learn production. So I can learn editing. I can learn, in some ways, directing behind the camera, even just interviewing artists or working with a host to interview artists and guiding them how to do the interviews was me learning how to direct, how to work with people. So everything that I was doing was kind of like engaging me toward where I am now today. you know, and I knew, again, like, I think at age 14 was a time that I knew that this is what I wanted to do. At age 14, you know, I think I had seen a Spike Lee film or something, or I don't know if it was Matty Rich, Straight Outta Brooklyn, one of the early films I've seen, that I was so influenced because as a young kid that grew up in, I guess, you know, starting out in inner city. I grew up in Washington Heights in the inner city. Starting out there to see people that look like the people I was around doing, you know, like a Spike Lee or Matty Rich early age, even though I'm not Black, I'm Asian, it influenced me because those are the people that were around me. So when I saw that, I said, wow, you know, I could do that too, you know. And then eventually when I found out about people like Ang Lee and other directors, other Asian directors, like, wow, these people are doing, they look like me, they are like me. It was very influential to me as a child. And I specifically say that because it really did influence my heart to say, wow, I can do this, you know, and I can one day do my own version of Star Wars, you know, because that's what was in my head. I loved sci-fi fantasy. I said, okay, one day I can do that. I can create this in my world, you know, because I used to draw as a kid. So all I did was create little worlds. So yeah, so going back to that, yes, it's definitely something that I had a very specific goal in mind going in, and it spouted out in many different directions, but it was very meaningful. It was very, I think community has always been important to me. So
and
I think
speaking of that, I hate to, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, as a creator, it's about your audience. And I think I learned from a young kid, you know, even at 17, working on a little TV show that became a big hit, is reaching out and affecting a community, you know.
And you said community, so that's what kind of caught me out. I was going to ask you, do you feel that Asian Americans are moving further ahead in Hollywood these days?
Yes. I think we are all moving ahead. I think as a whole, you know, with times moving forward, with the rise of voices, original voices, it has its ebbs and flows. It goes up and down. I mean, I remember back in the 90s, it was a huge influx of Black movies, as well as I think the only Asian movie it had was Joyland Club. That was an Asian American made, but it goes up and down, you know. So I think now with the rise of original media on the web, the fact that anybody can create content, it's a lot easier now. You know, back in the 90s, back in the early 2000s, where the 2000s started shifting, but you know, it was way harder to access creating things for TV and film, especially if you want to do a film. Most of the film was done on film. It was physical film, you know, film rolls, and it's quite cost prohibitive. yeah, and you know, I started that way. I used to intern for music videos, and I was interning under the camera department. And shout out to all my original producers I worked with, and John Bentham, the DP I worked with. But I was learning how to, like, you know, how to load film and unload film. I mean, it's very tangible, but it's also very expensive. So it was not the same as now, where you can get your iPhone and you can record a little mini movie or a little TikTok and get a lot of views and become famous just like that. So now I think everybody, the playing field has definitely expanded. Anybody with an original voice can be heard. That includes Asian Americans, it includes African Americans, Latino Americans. So all of us, so, you know, even little white Americans, everybody can do it. So the playing field is more equalized now in terms of money and distribution. That's still something that we have to work on. You know, getting the money to make films still costs money. You know, getting an original Asian American story like the one I'm working on now, it takes support. You know, it takes someone to actually take a story that is non-traditional seriously. You know, so that we still have to change. But in terms of us being able to do it ourselves, it's there. So
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask you, you're working on a film inspired by your own story. Was it your idea to do it, or did someone tell you you need to do your story?
No. I mean, it's everything I do is always centered around my life experience. You know, everything, even if it has something that doesn't seem to have any sort of relationship to me, there's still something in there that relates to me. Even the protagonist, the main character that I'm working with, has something to do with me somehow. So yeah, I mean, this idea that I'm doing now is something I had the idea of 20 years ago. You know, it's something that I do 20 years ago. You know, this would be a great film. You know, sure, it's taking me a long time to get to it, so I probably could have moved a little faster. But then that's, again, all in God's timing. This is what was supposed to happen, and I'm following my heart. You know.
And I love to hear you say it takes time, because one thing I hate is when people don't see the hard work, the grind, the grunt work, and then all of a sudden they see you and they're like, overnight sensation. And you're like, oh, overnight? I've been doing this for 15, 20 years. What do you mean overnight? Do those kind of things bother you? People who just learned who you are and they're like, oh man, you came out of nowhere. And you're like, no.
I don't think so. I think people know that I've been doing this for a while. I think most people that know me, they know I've been doing this for a while, and they're like, what's taking you so long? You know, but at the same time, you know, it is the timing that is right. You know,
Right,
you
right.
know, my success will come at a later age. My success could have came at age 20, 21. However, what defines success? You know, what is the
There you
definition
go.
of success is based on a personal basis per person. You know,
Hmm.
so what I accomplished at age 17 could have been the life pinnacle of what that person wanted to do. You know, for me, it
Right.
was a beginning stage to where I am now. But to somebody else, it could be their end all be all, and they could live a happy life, get married, and have kids, and retire. I
Right.
mean, it's all relative. I've learned that even art is relative. What art is, just everything in value is relative. Everything. I think that's one thing the pandemic has showed us over a year. Is just like, or even if I take it even back, even Katrina. When I look at Katrina, with all my friends, a lot of my friends lost all their stuff, their life, their house underwater. And when you ask them, like, "Oh my God, you lost everything," they're like, "It's just stuff," because you had to contend with the fact that it is just physical stuff. So I think that's kind of what my heart is right now. It's like, okay, everything happens for a reason, and
Right.
we move forward, and things have value, things don't have value, but then you get to cherish, you know, in the end, when you have nothing left, you have to say, okay, what do I have? You know, I
Right.
have my loved one, my family, my friends, I have myself, right? And that's something that I think this year has taught me. I don't even change the subject, but it's definitely taught me,
Uh,
like, what's important to me, what is actually important, you know. So I look back on my last 25 years of directing as a
right.
blessing. It was all meant to be. You know, the ups and downs, the lessons that we learn has you know, made me who I am today, and I cherish that, you know, and I say thank you for that. So
Oh, that's definitely dope. I know, as far as what you've done, it's kind of funny for those who may not know who you are. You've directed and edited over 100 music videos. You have a master's from NYU, and recently you have been chosen to be a part of the ABC Disney Directing Program. How exciting! How fun! How much do you think you're gaining from being a part of that program?
program's amazing. It was definitely not expected. Sometimes life gives you things not expected. I applied to it.
Right.
I wasn't going to apply to it, and I did because a friend of mine just said, "Why are you not applying to it?" You know, then a writer friend that I met off a set, he was like, "Why are you not applying to it?" I was like, I don't know." He was like, "You should apply to it. You'll get in." I was like, "Really?" I just applied. I got in. I was like, "Wow, okay." But I'll say this: I say the program has been the most helpful, the most wonderful thing in terms of building relationships with other people. And then you realize the so-called access, the access that you always wanted, it's available. It's available to anybody that wants to reach out, even without a program, right?
Right.
But the access is important, and the relationships you build is what this program offers you. It offers you relationships, hands-on knowledge, hands-on training, and it's preparing me to get fully into TV directing, which is something that 20 years ago I knew I should have been doing. Right? I was like, oh, I should do
Wow.
TV directing. I just didn't know how. No one, there's no, you know, I didn't have someone telling me, oh, this is how you do it. You know, sometimes you just need a person to teach you. So that's what this program kind of showed me the way. You know, this is how you do it. I was like, oh,
Right.
okay, I get it. Am I ready for it? Yeah, I've been ready for it. 20 years ago, I was ready for it. I just didn't know how to get in, right? But I think,
So with
again, that's
that,
another thing. Access, internet access. We have that now. Something that 20 years ago was just starting. Now younger people today, they have access to things that we just didn't have 20 years ago. It was harder. Now there's so much information that it's definitely helped. Again, it's definitely made the ground, the pavement much smoother to travel through. But you still got to do the work. You still got to train. You still got to study your craft.
Right. What advice would you share with those who want to do what you're doing right now? Do you have any advice for them?
I say, do it. Don't be scared, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. I think that is something that I suffered from many, many years ago. Even up to recent times, it's like I was always scared to do something if it wasn't perfect in my eye. But there's no such thing as perfection, and sometimes your biggest mistakes end up being your greatest achievements, by accident. But then you learn from it. So you shouldn't be scared. If you want to make that film, if you want to write that story, if you want to, I don't know, learn to be a ballet dancer, learn karate, go ahead and do it at any age, because life is too short. You might as well experience it now, and just do it. And don't be scared to do it, because you don't know what you're missing. And you don't know what you're missing until you try it. So I think fear stops us.
I agree with you wholeheartedly on that, because everything I'm doing right now came from my fears were there, and I just said, you know what, I'm jumping. And I just jumped in, and luckily it worked out. It's one of those things. So I know we're down to about 5 minutes. So I want to ask you, do you have a dream collaboration, a team of people that you would really like to work with?
Yes. Personally, I would love to work with my team now. I have a group of friends and people that are coming up in the game, filmmakers, that I want to see all of us succeed, and I know there's people I've known for 20 years as well that have been doing it just as long as I have. And I know for me, we're all moving on parallel tracks, and I could name drop names, but I don't think I need to. I think it's just the people that are closest to you. It's important for you to support them, and the ones that have supported you, and then those that don't support you, you just have to know where they stand in your life. That's another thing. I've learned that as well. That was a hard lesson to learn. But the ones that actually do support you, that actually care about you, that have been there for you, is the ones that you should bring with you. And those are the ones that I want to succeed. I want to see succeed in whatever format of career or choice that they're working with. That's who I want to bring along with me. So,
okay. So I'm gonna ask this last question here, and that is, if you could have a conversation with anyone, famous or not, living or not, who would it be? I love to ask that question.
That's a good question. First thing in my head is Malcolm X. I know that sounds so weird, but Malcolm X. And the reason is because my best friend's father, Les Payne, my best friend's name Jamal Payne, and his sister Tamara Payne, he passed away 3 years ago, but he spent 30 years writing a book about Malcolm X. And it finally released this year in October, and it actually already won the National Book Award for nonfiction, for best nonfiction, nice. Which is a huge accomplishment. So I think reading that book, at least starting to read that book, I haven't finished it yet, but it gave me, I think Malcolm X is in my head literally right now, is this man, to see his transitioning, and what the book does is just so amazing. And he's a polarizing figure, but this book humanizes him down to his childhood, to his mother and father, being harassed by the Ku Klux Klan as a child. Well, actually, even when he wasn't even born, it starts before he was even born. Okay. And to see him transition to who he was, even reading the autobiography, if I could have just seen this man back in the day, I mean, obviously I wasn't born then, but to even see this man back in the day speak or be near him is quite amazing, Right. So that's just first thing in my head, And there's two other people that I've already met that I would love to have spoken, but I have met them. I met Stevie Wonder, one of my favorite singers in the world. I did meet him, and I had met Tina Marie. And I know that sounds weird again, strange, but one of my favorite singers. And I had
those are good people to meet.
Yeah, I had the blessing through my show to meet all these people, two of my biggest influences. The only other person I would love to have met, I guess, is Donny Hathaway. I mean, the man's music has been very influential in my life. And when I look at his lyrics and analyze what this man went through, and the fact that he had schizophrenia, all this stuff, I can only imagine how deep that mind was. I mean, this is a,
Right.
you know, and someone like Aaliyah. And I didn't meet Aaliyah. Thank God I got to meet Aaliyah. I got to meet some greats in my life.
Okay.
And these are special people. These are special human beings. You can tell within meeting like a special human being, you can tell within the first 5 minutes that they have a glow in them. And
Right.
it's so sad that God takes them away so early, but there's a glow in certain people you can just feel. You know, I felt that with Aaliyah. You felt that glow. When she walked in the room, it's like, whoa. Yeah, you could feel it. So you could feel it with Stevie Wonder. You could feel it. I felt it with Tina Marie. There's a glow. It's like, whoa, who is this person?
Absolute pleasure having you on here. It's good to hear the stories and the things that you've gone through, the diversity, and how it rounded you off to the person you are. Because I've seen some of your work, and I was watching one of your videos earlier today, actually. So I love how over the years, you can see your progression. You can see where you're like, this was good. Oh man, this is better. And you can just see it just constantly go up. So kudos to you on that. And I hope it keeps growing for you. I want to see you up there getting an Oscar one day so that I can go, hey, I interviewed him. So that would be an awesome thing. It's a pleasure. I have to get ready to end the show because I'm getting a finger from my producer here. And everyone knows that I always like to tell people, live, love, laugh, live for the moment, love those that are there for you, laugh and have fun because life is too short. You never know when it's going to end. Hug the people you love. This is the Stress-Free Zone. Remember, as I always tell you, remain stress-free. And we are out. Thanks, Bobby.
Thank you. Thank you, Randy. Appreciate it.